Back again for the closing bell portion of our interview with JPMorgan Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. Jamie, thank you again.
Happy to be here again.
So let's talk about the Business Roundtable statement that, of course, has drawn so much attention. At the heart of it, you're dropping the primacy of shareholder first that has been at the heart of capitalism for years. Shareholders are now one of 5 stakeholders alongside customers, workers, suppliers, and communities. Why now?
Because, when we looked at this, a reporter actually pointed out that your statement from 1997 is still primary shareholder value, i.e. all you care about is profit and shareholders. And we went and read it, and the board read it, the board of the Business Roundtable, and the governance committee run by Alice Gorski, and we all said this doesn't represent at all how we run a company. I mean, first and foremost, we talk about customers. We better do a good job for our or we lose. We better take care of our employees or we lose. And communities, we all want to be great community citizens. And so it was kind of an evolution to recognize reality. Think of it like a team. It's very simple to say shareholder value and you want a simple answer, but you can't win if you're a great quarterback if you don't have a running back and a receiver. The team wins, and you have to do each one of them well to be successful, and that's what it acknowledges. It's still shareholder value, but it's much more long-term. The BRT also took off. You don't have to do earnings guidance, which most of us think is a complex, unnecessary thing to do that causes some short-term pressure. And then you could put your best foot forward. What do we do for consumers, employees, communities? And one last thing about communities, lifting up a community, okay, because it's probably a little bit more removed than the rest of it. But if you go around the world and you've got healthy economies, which are based on good policy, you've got healthy businesses and much healthier citizens. And if you go to other economies which aren't growing at all, the businesses are terrible, the citizens are terrible. So there's nothing wrong with people saying, I'm going to use some of my skills and talent to lift up society. And that would be better for everybody, including your business.
Senator Warren embraced the BRT statement, and she went further. She wrote a letter to you saying that she expected you to, quote, endorse and wholeheartedly support the reforms laid out in her Accountable Capitalism Act to meet the principles that you endorse. What's your response to that?
It's sloppy logic that I think that's right because we changed our statement. And I think that people have the right to look at companies and say, what are you doing for your customers, your employees? Are you helping out the community and stuff like that? And there are a lot of things that actually I'm not going to go through now. But to me, that we should do. But changing the complete nature of how you run a corporation, absolutely not.
You've dealt with Senator Warren, obviously, plenty of times, whether recently or in hearings or when she was head of the CFPB. Do you think the characterization of her in the press that she's anti-business, anti-capitalism is fair?
Look, I don't know. You really have to ask her what she really means. She uses some pretty harsh words. Some would say vilifies successful people. So I don't like vilifying anybody. I think we should applaud successful people. A lot of people come to this company for opportunity and choice and success. We want that for everybody. Now that's a little bit different than paying your fair share and how the taxation system should work. That I completely understand. But I think we have to look at America was founded on free enterprise. Freedom and free enterprise are interchangeable. You can't separate them from each other. Successful companies have lifted up society. It doesn't mean they can't do more. It doesn't mean they didn't make mistakes. But so I think we should applaud that. And if people have very specific things that we should do different, then we should think about doing them different.
If the vilification part was removed, are there any of the aspects, the general aspects that she talks about that you agree with in terms of wealthy people paying more? I heard you speak recently at an event with Tim Adams and James Gorman. You talked about having a negative income tax.
Yeah. So I think it's important that people recognize the things that haven't worked in society. Inner city schools aren't graduating kids. Infrastructure doesn't work. It's very, that if you're I think 15% of America makes $10 an hour or less, which is clearly not a living wage. I think it's in all of our interest to have proper safety nets, fix those problems, and send people to work. And I would be in favor of a negative income tax to get people to work. We have one kind of in the earned income tax credit, which is supported, by the way, by Republicans and Democrats, but it's limited mostly to women, single women with children. I think it should be expanded. Jobs create dignity. So I think acknowledging when people have problems and fixing it doesn't mean their policy is always right. The road to hell is paved with good intentions when it comes to policy, and you should be very careful about what you're trying to accomplish, on how to fix this problem, what policies work. There are a lot of examples around the world about policies that work and policies that didn't work. Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of wealthier people I know wouldn't mind paying more taxes, but it's very important for my Democratic friends to also look at the following. They should justify how they spend money. Every department in Washington, everyone should say, I took your money, Mr. and Mr. Citizen, and here's what I did with it. Not how much I took, what are the outcomes? How many jobs? Mm-hmm. How many roads? And how come we haven't fixed these things? And put a little pressure on yourself before you just ask for more. I don't think even Democrats believe that throwing tons of money at Washington, D.C. is going to make the country that much better off. I think people are very cautious about feeding the beast too much, and for good reason. A lot of government programs have been abysmal failures, and we should acknowledge that both. Problems need to be fixed. Those solutions didn't work. Let's try something different.
If the race was Warren versus Trump, do you think for the first time there'd be a genuine opportunity for an independent candidate?
I don't think so. I mean, there may be an opportunity one day for an independent party, but I don't think so. And people who know much more about politics than me have studied that, and they've come up with the answer no.
To bring it all together, Jamie, you said that when your new headquarters is finished, that you wouldn't be moving back in at that point. If the building works on time, you've got three or 4 years left in your position.
Well, I always say 5.
You said 5 a year ago, so it's definitely
not 5
not 5 anymore.
I'm always going to say 5. Whenever you ask me, I'm going to say 5. But that's up to the board, and obviously we'll hopefully have a great transition.
But however many years it is, you're clearly incredibly passionate about your country, and very involved and thoughtful about the policies that can make the country stronger. So, after banking, is some form of public service an option for you?
Probably not, but I would never rule anything out, and I never say never. But I think that business, civic society, think of hospitals, schools, not-for-profits, working with government can fix our problems. I think yelling at each other is not going to fix our problems. Collaboration works, and you can go to certain cities around the world, what Mayor Duggan is doing in Detroit, which other mayors are doing, which some governors are doing, that works. Like, how do we get kids jobs out of these inner city schools? That's probably going to take business and community leaders and teachers to agree we need this kind of training. Can you help us train the trainers? And so, I want to fix those problems. I think we've really held America back. I've mentioned many times that we've grown 20% over the last 10 or 11 years. It should have been 40%. People don't ask that question. 40%, if you had another 20% growth or even 15% growth, okay, that would have been another $3 trillion of GDP. That would have been another $1.5 trillion or something in the pockets of our citizens. That would have sucked up maybe $1 trillion or even more of capital. So instead of buying back stock, maybe they would have needed that capital to invest in their businesses. Wages would have gone up even more. I guarantee inflation, interest rates would be higher. It would be more normal. I think we did this new, this secular stagnation, kind of this new normal. I think we did it to ourselves through bad policy, infrastructure, certain taxation, inner city schools, too much regulation, a capricious and slow litigation, healthcare, which has cost too much. I think those are the things holding us back. And yes, we should share the great pleasant in this nation with the less privileged.
Jamie, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks very much for having me at the conference, and thanks for your time today.
Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Jamie Dimon, Chairman and CEO of JPMorgan Chase.